Let me ask you something that most small business owners don't realize until they are already exhausted. Have you ever noticed how two businesses can have the same size team, the same resources, and the same market, but one feels energized, aligned, and growing, while the other feels heavy, chaotic, and constantly putting out fires? The difference usually isn't strategy. It's not talent. It's not even effort. It's culture. And here's what I've learned after years of building teams and coaching small business owners is culture isn't a big company thing. Culture is not a vibe that you hope for. Culture is your hidden growth engine. When your values are clear and actually lived, everything moves faster. Decisions get easier, people stay longer, and growth feels lighter. So today, as we kick off the new year, we are talking about small business, big culture and how defining and living your values creates real velocity in your business and in your life. Well, hey, dreamers, happy new year. Welcome back to your Dream Coach podcast. I hope you enjoyed your time with family and friends over the holidays and are ready to dive into creating and designing an amazing 2026. I'm Shayla Wey. I'm a small business coach, growth strategist, and believer that your dream life starts the moment you lead like you mean it. This podcast is all about leadership, fulfillment, and growth. And today, we're diving into how culture, not hustle, is often the missing link between where you are and where you want to go. So let's dive into this. I want to kick off by sharing that with culture and why culture is the first system that you're building, whether or not you realize it, is because what I have found is every business has a culture, even if it's never been named. And culture is formed by what you tolerate, what you celebrate, how you respond under pressure, what gets rewarded, what gets ignored. And here's the key is that if you don't intentionally define your culture, it will form by default. In small businesses especially, culture is amplified. And there have been several times where I have met with CEOs, business owners, top leaders, and I've asked them their core values, their culture vibes, and they've paused and got stuck with how to answer this question. And so your energy, your values, your habits, they are the culture. And that is not pressure, that's power. And one of the biggest myths that I see is that values slow businesses down. And what I found is that values actually create velocity. So when your values, your core values in your company are really, really clear, what ends up happening is you end up making decisions a lot faster because you have these values to play off of. It's either in alignment or in misalignment of those values. So decision processing is a lot more efficient. Boundaries are easier because when we're clear on the values, it's either within the boundary or it's out of the boundary. Hiring is a lot cleaner. Communication is way more simple. And you really stop debating every choice because values become your filter. So this aligns with what Daniel Coyle shares in the Culture Code. It's a phenomenal book, and he talks about how high-performing teams aren't fast because they rush. They're fast because they're aligned. And alignment beats urgency every single time. Now, leadership sets the cultural ceiling. And let's be honest, culture doesn't live in a document. I think it's important that we have our values listed. We have a mission statement. 100%, I do think we do need a document, but it can't stop there. Leadership and the culture really starts in the behavior of the leadership and the leaders of the organization. And so what I have found is that your team will mirror things like how you handle stress, how you speak about clients, how you treat mistakes, how you respect boundaries. You don't build culture by just telling people what matters. You really, really build it by showing them and leading the way in what matters. And that's why leadership and culture can't be separated. Your business won't outgrow the standard that you live by. Now, in large corporations, culture can get diluted. In small businesses, we feel culture a lot more deeply, and that's honestly a gift. I'm part of a lot of small businesses that I help coach, and it is magical because you have such an amazing opportunity to shift the culture by tightening up your core values and really living and breathing what you want to exist in your company through your leadership. And in small businesses, it is felt immediately. And so I've learned that intimacy is actually a massive advantage. People really don't join small businesses just for paychecks. They join for meaning, belonging, growth, impact. And when values are clear, people feel emotionally invested, not just contractually obligated. And that's when discretionary effort really shows up. That's when loyalty deepens, and that's when momentum builds. Now, when we look at the fulfillment strategy, culture really is a huge part of the fulfillment strategy, not just a performance tool. And fulfillment, I feel, especially now in today's working world, is fulfillment is a really key component for retention and for what people look for when they are a part of a team. And so that is really where fulfillment comes in. And so I have found that leaders burn out faster in misaligned cultures, even successful ones, eventually. And when values aren't clear, everything feels heavier. Conflict feels personal. Wins feel empty. Growth feels exhausting. But when culture aligns with who you are, work feels meaningful. Leadership feels grounded. Growth feels a lot more sustainable. And fulfillment doesn't come from doing less. It comes from doing aligned work with aligned people. And so when we have those values in place, they protect you during those growth seasons. Because what happens is as a company and a team grows, growth exposes different cracks and areas of opportunity within a team. And so values sort of act like these guardrails when things scale. So they help you answer, who do we hire? Who do we promote? What do we say no to? What does success actually look like here? Netflix famously built this into their culture as outlined in no rules rules. Clarity around values allowed them to scale without losing identity. And growth without values creates chaos. And growth with values is going to create that confidence. And that's what people are attracted to, is a confidence in leaders, confidence in a team, confidence in where a company is growing to. Now, culture reduces that friction, which is where we lose a lot of energy. And so most leaders think friction comes from people problems. But friction usually comes from unclear expectations and unspoken values. So when values are not defined, people guess, assumptions grow, resentment builds, leaders overmanage. So clear culture removes the emotional tax from everyday work. So when there's less friction, there's a lot more energy. And when there's more energy, there's more momentum. And that's velocity. So living these values builds trust, and it builds it fast. And trust isn't built by charisma, it's built by consistency. And so what I have found is that teams trust leaders who are predictable in values, even when decisions are hard. So when people know what you stand for, how you decide, where you draw lines, they feel safe. And psychological safety is one of the strongest predictors of high performing teams, according to Google's Project Aristotle research. Trust accelerates everything. Now, culture gives people a reason to stay and grow. I've been a part of many teams. I've built many teams. Now, as I work with different companies, retention isn't just about the perks. So many reasons I've stayed working with different clients and companies is the culture and how I feel when I'm a part of that organization. And so I have found that people are going to stay where they feel aligned, where they feel challenged, where they feel valued. And strong culture reduces turnover. It increases ownership, and it encourages leadership at every level. So when people grow with the culture, not against it, the business grows naturally. And this is growth that will compound. And really, culture is how dreams get built together. And so let's tie this back to dreams. This is the Dream Coach podcast. This is the core fundamental foundation of what I eat, sleep, and breathe, is how is everything that we do day to day allowing us to live and design the life of our dreams. And so dreams don't thrive in transactional environments. Culture creates the space where leaders dream bigger, teams feel invested, growth feels shared, fulfillment becomes collective. And so your values tell people, this is who we are building this for and why it matters. And that's how businesses become legacy driven, not just revenue driven. And so as we take some key reflections from this podcast, is building culture intentionally. There's a few questions I want to invite you leaders to sit with. Is what behaviors do you consistently model? It's such an amazing time of the year as we kick off with quarter one of business. Is what behaviors do we model, and maybe where do we want to shift? And then what values are you rewarding? Maybe it's intentionally or it's not, but the fresh, clean slate of a new year and new quarter is an amazing time to make some of these adjustments. And what kind of culture would support the life that you want to live? Because culture isn't just built in one workshop, it's built in everyday leadership moments. So take some of those questions, reflect and reset. And as you lead your teams in an upcoming staff meeting or event coming up, this quarter to set up your team for success, implement some of those core values that you want to build culture upon. And I've even found as a leader myself that sometimes asking the team the core values pulls them in to contribute and can be a really beautiful way to round this out as you build in 2026 and beyond. So if this episode resonated and you want to build a business with strong cultures, clear values, sustainable growth, I'd love to invite you to the LFG Business Academy on School. It's completely free and you will get access to amazing tools and documents in that space. The link is in the show notes, so you can come and join us there. Thank you for spending this time with me today and for caring enough about your business to build it with intention. Because success isn't about what you build. It's about how you build it and who you become along the way. And remember that your dream life starts with the way that you lead, the way that you live, and the way that you grow. I will see you next time on your Dream Coach podcast.